Welcome, fellow Kiss fans. Welcome to It's All For You Demons, celebrating the fun of being a Kiss fan. Tonight, we wanted to talk not your favorite song, your most important Kiss song of your tenure in the Kiss Army. And this goes back to tagging probably the person who joined you on this journey of being a Kiss fan. We all have that one person that rode co-pilot with us on this journey to being a Kiss fan. It could be a brother, it could be a best friend, it could be a girlfriend, it could be a wife, it could be a peewee. Mine is Dan Thompson, who just celebrated a birthday last Monday. Happy birthday to you, Dan. And this episode is dedicated to you because this episode came from your noggin. This is taking a look at what is your most important Kiss song. So tonight's episode, inspired by Dan, created by Dan. This whole episode tonight came out of Dan's head. This is going to be like an appreciation of Dan episode, and we're probably going to have one more of these before the year's over, because in December, Danny and I are going to New York City to see the final Kiss show, and that's going to be our last Kiss show together. We saw Kiss for the first time, 1990, Hot in the Shade, and we're going to end it together at the end of this year. So I know we're going to have one more Dan appreciation video. Maybe he will even be in it, and of course he will be in the New York video at the end of the year. We've got some cool stuff planned. That trip is going to be a lot of fun. So I thought I would start tonight with a little history of Dan and I, and it all starts with this videotape. 1988, Dan came to my house with Phantom of the Park, rented from Video Exchange, and he introduced me to Kiss. Also in tow was the Gene Simmons solo album cassette that he let me borrow after he left that night. And I remember at the end of the night, I was such a poser. At the end of the night, he asked me, because he could tell I liked them, and he said, "Do you only like them because they wear makeup?" And I remember I said no, because I knew it was poserish to only like them because of the makeup. But now as an adult, that's why we all became fans. Let's face it. Not afraid to admit it now, but back then I felt like a poser. I said no. But that night, my life changed. My life changed that night. And I think, hopefully, Dan feels the same. I think our lives grew closer together that night. We had always been friends and always into the same thing. But then you become a Kiss fan, and that bond that you have with the person you became a Kiss fan with, it's so special and so tight. Like, I talk to the man every day. Like, 30 times a day we text. And mostly it's all about Kiss. And you just can't make that kind of shit up. That is the magic of rock and roll. That is the magic of being a Kiss fan. And it all started that night because of these two tapes. Now, at first, I don't know where we got this tape, but we listened to Love Gun a lot, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with Phantom of the Park. I was brand new into the band, so hadn't really started collecting anything yet, especially the back catalog. And given that I Stole Your Love is the first song off of Phantom, that's probably why we gravitated towards Love Gun. And I didn't have a job back then, so I didn't have any money. So I'm assuming Danny bought the cassette used at Record Warehouse, and we probably just jammed out to Love Gun and Gene Simmons solo tape for the longest time. And then I made my first purchase, which was Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. And this was my audio cliff notes into the band's back catalog. Up until that point, I learned a lot from Dan, from his memories of the solo albums and Dynasty and seeing Phantom on TV when he was young. Keep in mind at this point, we didn't own Phantom, it was a rental, and so all I had was that Gene Simmons cassette and then Smashes. Borrowing Dan's Love Gun in between, but Smashes was really my opening up of the Bible of the back catalog. And then in late 1989, I bought The Might and Magic of Kiss, and this is when we really went down the path of no return, because for the first time, it felt like we were collectors. I had a magazine, and Danny and I have always looked at Kiss as if one of us had it, we both had it. So we both had a Kiss collectible at this point. And this magazine really cemented our partnership in this whole wonderful thing, because we read this magazine together. We quizzed each other on this magazine together. We saw pictures for the first time together. We read interviews for the first time together. Gene Simmons became our hero in this magazine because of the famous success quote that we both can still ramble off to this day. We always joke that our lives are better because of Kiss, and it's all because of this magazine. And then Hot in the Shade came out, and that was fantastic because that was our first Kiss album together, brand new album together to dive into stuff we've never heard, brand new music, and the first time we ever saw the band. And it was this show, May 10th, 1990, Sandstone Amphitheater in Kansas. Thunderstormed like a bitch on the way down, and then right before Kiss came out, every cloud went away, the moon was out, it was a beautiful night, our very first Kiss show, and this is a picture I took that evening of Dan Thompson in my driveway, standing next to his Camaro. We're about to leave for our very first Kiss show. And then we got into collecting that back catalog, and it was all on CD, and it was an adventure to find every CD and put them in order and dive into every album and reference it back to Might and Magic, try to read backstories. Mr. Speed became like my song that I loved, and Love 'Em, Leave 'Em became Dan's. And I've often said, like, Danny is the Simmons to my Stanley. It's odd how we've always done that our entire Kiss life together. He gravitates toward Gene, I gravitate towards Paul, and the CD was a perfect example of that because I loved Mr. Speed, he loved Love 'Em, Leave 'Em, and we were on our road to becoming the Kiss fans we are today. And that brings me to the point of this episode. Danny texted me the other day and he said, I will always love 'Em, Leave 'Em. I will always love Deuce. He said, but you know, my most important Kiss song is probably I Stole Your Love. And here's why. Given the fact that it's in Phantom, it was probably the first Kiss song we heard together. Thank the Lords of Rock and Roll, it was included in the Hot in the Shade set list. It was the first song we ever heard live. It's the opening track of probably the most fun Kiss record. And given its inclusion in Phantom of the Park and Alive 2, and our love of amusement parks, it's kind of the most perfect summer Kiss song. Love Gun, Alive 2, Phantom of the Park are very much summer go-tos, and I Stole Your Love is almost like the theme song of summer. So thus, thanks to Dan, I now have my most important Kiss song, and it's I Stole Your Love from Love Gun. I do love Love Gun, and thanks to AJ's Happy Fun Time channel, I love 1,000,001 because I never gave that song a chance, and a few years ago, he mentioned how much he loved 1,000,001, and I gave it another shot, and I was like, holy crap. Possibly the best Paul Stanley vocal ever in a song. Best power ballad by the band. Although I love Forever. But those would be my three most favorite songs. Mr. Speed, Love Gun, 1,000,001. And hats off to Dan, the birthday boy, 53 years young. The Simmons to my Stanley, I Love You Man, I Stole Your Love is my most important Kiss song because Dan is the most important person in my life. Minus wife, dogs, it's Dan. I would not be the person I am today without Dan and without this band. Thank you for hanging with us tonight and waxing a little rock and roll nostalgia with us here in the Wax Night Basement. I love this anniversary edition. This has grown on me. So glad I bought it. The more and more, maybe it's just summer, but the more and more time goes by, this is one anniversary album I always pull out. And it contains my most important Kiss song ever. Like my dog. The most important thing in my life. Be good to your babies. Spay, neuter, microchip. Take care. Be safe. We will talk to you soon.